Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today we are looking at my team selection for game week 6. I've already made 3 free transfers. I went early on those to catch some price drops and rises. I wouldn't have been able to afford the moves if I hadn't done that. So we'll get into that, but for now we'll quickly have a look at my game week 5 team and how it got on. You can see it on screen. 63 points, 3.5 million game week rank. Gave me a tiny red arrow from 1.1 million to 1.2 million. Now, before the game week started, I said that I'd take a grey arrow because I basically decided that I wasn't going to go for Salah. If I were to get Salah, it would have been 2 transfers to take out Saka, to take out Isak, and those 2 transfers would have meant that I would have locked in the wildcard 6. So I decided not to do that. I decided to go without Salah, who was by far the best captain. And I'd say I got away with it, to be honest. I'm glad I didn't use the 2 transfers. I'm glad I don't have to wildcard now. And it pretty much was a grey arrow, to be honest. It wasn't far off. A tiny, tiny red arrow, which I'm quite happy with. So Henderson with a shot clean sheet. As I always say in these videos, expectations are low. So 9 points is brilliant. Trent, fantastic. He's been brilliant this season and he's finally getting some good returns now as well. Porro, 2 points. I can't be too disappointed with Porro. He's come in and been good when I've needed him to be, so don't mind it. Dunk is a disappointing one, really. I was expecting a lot more from him this week. 0 points is far from ideal. Saka with the assist. He's done well in the last 2 games when they haven't had the best fixtures, and especially this week he didn't have a good fixture at all against City. We take those 4 points. Fernandes, disappointing, 3 points. We're going to talk about him in a bit as well. Rodgers finally gets his points. It was always coming. 2 assists, right at the death. Really happy with him. And he's got Ipswich next, which is great. Eze, another disappointment. That game as a whole, the Palace United game, was just disappointing. And then up front, Isak with 2 points. Newcastle continue to be absolutely terrible. Haaland captain with 9 points. Really, really happy with that return. Really, really happy that he outscored Salah because Salah was by far the best captain. And then João Pedro came off the bench to block Konsa's 9 points. So it could have been even better. But that game week is over now. I had 4 free transfers to play with. So let's see what I did with 3 of them. Right, okay, so now moving on to my team for game week 6. You can see there's a new face in here. I decided to do the keepers and the defenders at the same time because there's really nothing to say about the keepers every time. Henderson, he's not worth a transfer out to Flecken or anyone else, to be honest. Raya, potentially, but I've got a different triple up of Arsenal, as you'll see. So I don't actually hate the fixture, to be honest. Everton away, it's a pretty good fixture. And then Valdemarson on the bench. Not much to say about either of them, really. You'll notice that I have sold Trent Alexander-Arnold to Gabriel. Now, that is probably an unpopular one, and I completely understand why it would be an unpopular one. If you watch my wildcard video the other day, you'll know that I mentioned that I would go without Trent on wildcard this week. Now, again, that's unpopular in itself, but for me, Liverpool's upcoming fixtures, just this week aside, this week's fixture is fantastic against Wolves. Wolves look like they have injury troubles as well. I think Salah is potentially the best captain this week, definitely up there with Haaland and Saka. I think Diaz is great for this week as well. He looks like he'll start, but longer term or even medium term, I just think there are teams with better fixtures. I wanted to get Gabriel in for these next few fixtures as Arsenal's fixtures are absolutely great. So Trent had to make way. That doesn't mean I don't think he's good. I think he's absolutely fantastic and he will almost definitely be coming back in soon. I've still got my wildcard, obviously. So if I decide to wildcard in a few weeks, I'll probably get him back in. Depends on when I wildcard based on Liverpool's fixtures. But there is definitely a way that I get him back in soon. I just think for the next few, I needed Gabriel and he was the way to get him for me. I've got Konsa. The Villa defence has just been pretty disappointing this season so far. obviously he scored, but maybe he will play in this right back role a bit more often now that Diego Carlos is around. So if he does get a bit more attacking in that right back role, then maybe it's good. I didn't actually watch the game, so I don't know whether they kind of shifted to a 3 and Luca Dean just bombed on, or I'm not really sure how it worked. But either way, it's a good fixture, so I'll be playing him. I've got somewhat of a decision to make whether I play Porro against Man United or Robinson against Forest. I think that neither of them have great chances of a clean sheet, and they're both very, very attacking. I just think that Porro is probably more attacking, and Man United probably have a worse defence than Forest. I know Man United have just kept 2 clean sheets in a row, 3 if you count Barnsley in the cup, which I don't, so 2. But I just don't think that Man United defence is all that great, really. So yeah, I think I'll play Porro. Let's move on to the midfield now. Okay, moving on to the midfield, and you'll notice there is another new face. Bryan Mbeumo comes in. It was always my plan to get him in Gameweek 6 for their lovely run of fixtures. And if you watched my wildcard video the other day, you know that this is the midfield that I would pick on wildcard. My plan was to always have as many transfers as possible in Gameweek 6 so that I could use a load of transfers to get close to a wildcard team. And my team really isn't far off what I would choose on wildcard. I would have double Arsenal defence, but the alternative isn't too bad, which we'll come on to when I get to the forwards. The midfield is exactly what I'd have pretty much. People are going to say, why have you still got Bruno and why have you still got Eze? I still think they're good picks. The numbers are good, so there's not really much more to say. Yes, they haven't performed. They haven't really got many returns, but I think they will. I think they've both got good fixtures this week. Tottenham at home is a good fixture. Their defence isn't the best, although it hasn't been that bad this season. Eze with Everton. If Branthwaite's back, that's slightly worse of a fixture, but I still can't see that defence being transformed into a good one overnight. So I'm happy to have both of them for these next couple of weeks. I've got Rodgers against Ipswich away. That's a no-brainer. He obviously plays. Mbeumo plays West Ham at home. Now, we saw how terrible the West Ham defence was against Chelsea. So hopefully, for my FPL team, hopefully that continues. I'm actually a West Ham fan, so I hope that doesn't continue. But for my FPL team, that probably is likely to continue. So Mbeumo should get some good chances. And then Saka has Leicester at home. Obviously a perfect fixture. Arsenal averaged over 4 goals last season against promoted teams. So I'm expecting goals from Saka and Arsenal this week and next week. There is a chance that I captain him. You can see that I've got the vice captaincy on him at the moment. It is very close for me between Saka and Haaland. If you watch my captaincy model video, the top 3, Saka, Salah and Haaland, are all within about 0.8 projected points. So it's almost a 3-sided coin toss as to which one you go with. I'm not sure where I'll land on that myself. It will definitely be Saka or Haaland. I'm just not sure which yet. But let's move on to the forwards now. Okay, now onto the forwards, and you can see that there is the third new face. Kai Havertz is in for Isak. So the moves were Isak to Havertz, Trent to Gabriel, which funded Bergvall to Mbeumo. Now, João Pedro is first on the bench. It looks like he is going to miss this weekend. It looks like he could be out for a little bit longer as well. We don't know too much yet. But I highly doubt I'll use my last free transfer to transfer him out this week. My plan was to always bench him this week anyway. So it doesn't really seem useful to move him on to Calvert-Lewin or Wood when that will only give me a benching headache anyway. I don't particularly want to bench any of these 7 attackers, so I'll probably just roll that transfer and deal with João Pedro next week, or I can probably bench him again next week, to be honest. So I'll deal with him in the future, not this week anyway. I've brought in Havertz. Now, if you watched my wildcard video the other day, I said that I prefer double Arsenal defence to double Arsenal attack. if I was on wildcard, then I would be going with double defence. I'd have Raya and Gabriel if Raya's fit, which he probably is. But I would have had to use an extra free transfer to get to double defence rather than Havertz. So I'd have had to do Isak to Calvert-Lewin and then Robinson up to Saliba probably, or Henderson to Raya. Which, if I just don't think that double attack is a free transfer worth worse than double defence, if that makes sense. From the stat I mentioned a minute ago where Arsenal have averaged over 4 goals last season against promoted teams, I'm expecting so many goals in these next 2 games. So, and Havertz will, yes, Odegaard is out, so Havertz may play in that kind of 8 role or midfield role. But what we've seen when Havertz does play in that role, he pretty much plays as high as the striker, whether that be Trossard, whether that be Jesus, probably Trossard, but he gets just as high, if not higher at points, than the other player that's playing up front as such. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think even if he was playing in like an 8 role, there'll still be plenty of chances for him anyway. Arsenal have so much of the ball in these 2 games that he'll be so high up the pitch regardless. All of their players will. So, yeah, I like the idea of going with Havertz. I'm not seeing many people on wildcard go with Havertz over the double defence, so it's a nice way to differentiate from these wildcard teams. So, yeah, then obviously Haaland, Newcastle away. I've talked about this in plenty of other videos. I've watched 3 Newcastle games out of their 5 fixtures this week, and they have been so bad. So it's really, really tempting to captain him. I've got the captain armband on him at the moment, as you can see, but at the moment it genuinely is 50-50 for me between Haaland and Saka. I'm not sure where I'll land. But yeah, 1 free transfer still in the bank. I probably won't use it unless we get some late injury news to someone. I doubt I'll use it this week. But let's look at how my team looks on Fantasy Football Hub and look at the rating. Okay, now on screen here, my team is on the Fantasy Football Hub team tool. In the description of this video, you can use the link for Fantasy Football Hub. It will get you 50% off of subscriptions to Fantasy Football Hub. That deal does end, I think it ends on the deadline of Gameweek 6, so there's not much time to get in on that. So make sure you do that. There's all sorts of things. You can look at the transfer suggestion tool. I'll talk about that for my team in a second. You can look at the AI wildcard team, which we looked at in my wildcard video earlier in the week. You can get team reveals from some of the best players. You can do all sorts on there. And yeah, 50% off, so it's a bit of a bargain at the moment. So check out the link in the description for that. But it says in the bank minus 0.1. That's because I just did it now, whereas the transfers that I did them before the price movement. So Isak dropped and Gabriel went up, I believe. So I've actually got 0.1 million in the bank. So it gives me a 92% rating. I'm predicted 67.3 points. And it gives me a 95% overall team rating for the next few weeks. So pretty happy with it. I think I can keep up with the wildcarders. That's kind of the plan, is to keep up with people that have wildcarded, knowing that I've got a wildcard in my back pocket to use at some point. I don't have a plan on when I will use that. Game week 8 looks okay. There's some fixture swings. If I can keep it, I'd like to keep it for game week 12 onwards. There's some big swings around game week 12, game week 14, so it would be very useful to have a wildcard to use that late, I believe. If not, then I'll keep it as long as I can, to be honest. But the transfer suggester tool on Fantasy Football Hub suggested that I should do João Pedro to Chris Wood now with my last free transfer, which I do like as a move. I think Chris Wood looks good right now. He looks good going forward. He's on penalties. He should start every game. He is coming off early in quite a lot of games, but I think he's good enough that doesn't matter too much. So I do like that move. I just don't think I need to do it this week. I think that I'm hoping we'll get some more information on how long João Pedro's out, because if he's not out for ages, then I probably will try to keep him, knowing that I probably don't need to play him in the next couple of weeks. But if he's out for a long time, then maybe Wood does come in and I can bench someone like Rodgers. Rodgers has got Man United next week, so it's not a bad fixture necessarily. It's at home as well. But yeah, I do have that option next week. I'll probably want to look at getting some City players in next week. I'll have 2 free transfers if I don't use my one this week. So I will probably try and get in Gvardiol somehow. That could be for Porro maybe. Or I might find a way to get some funds to do it for Robinson. We'll see about that next week. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you like it. Make sure you hit subscribe. It really helps. And I will see you in the next one.